Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Strategy Show presented by So Rare. Hopefully, you guys had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday. We're in business and talking a little 7-game slate here. Now, mind you, this starts early today, 6:40. Okay, we got 2 games at 6:40. It's not your typical 7:05 lock. It's 6:40. So keep that in mind. If you're looking now, maybe you're not going to be able to watch Deeper Dive live before lock. We got you covered right here. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Man, all that shit talking you did on the Heat, they come back out in Denver in game 2. They won't go away.
No, they continue to impress. Even in that game, like I was half watching. At the end, I was watching because I had a sweat showdown. But for most of the game, I was sort of just half watching. I knew Miami got out to the big lead. Denver looked awful offensively early on, and then Denver went on the big run. And was like, okay, whatever, this game's over. Like it should be over. Denver's better, and then they don't quit.
They don't quit, man. And it's I don't know. It's been kind of fun to watch it. I'll tell you that much. But I've also been watching Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount Plus, and
I don't think I've seen it.
I haven't binged the show in a long time, years probably. Last time was when I rewatched The Wire and I rewatched True Detective during quarantine, like during COVID. So that doesn't really count. This, I ripped through 10 episodes in the first season. Very good stuff. I've heard the second season isn't great, but highly recommend you guys check out the first season. I think you'll enjoy, especially if you're a Jeremy Renner guy. I'm a big fan of Jeremy Renner.
Yeah. I mean, I can't picture anything that I know him from, but like I know who he is. So
there's that one movie where he gets run over by a snowplow.
Okay.
that happened in real life. He's the one who was I'm sorry. He's fine. I saw a video on his Twitter the other day. He's fine. He's fine. He's moving around. He's in good shape. You aren't familiar with that?
Did he get hit by a snowplow?
His own snowplow ran him over. You're unfamiliar with this story?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, anyway, he's good, man. And now he's back. So hopefully there's a season 3. Happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Leave a comment down below as well. Ricky, yeah, he was in bad shape, but he's okay now. So I think enough time has passed.
I was going to say that it sounds vaguely familiar, but I honestly have no idea if it sounds vaguely familiar just because like you said it and I'm just like thinking, oh, maybe I saw that. But like I definitely know that like if you had just been like, what actor got run over by a snowplow, I would have had no idea.
No, and it was like trying to save a family member too in a big snowstorm. I mean, pretty heroic.
It sounds like I said, it does sound vaguely familiar, but again, that could just be being like backfilling the blanks and
right. But I wasn't passing that opportunity up.
Yeah, of course not. I wouldn't expect you to.
Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below if you guys are watching or listening after the fact. We appreciate all you for that. And of course, if you're listening or watching in podcast form, hit us with a rating, a review. All that stuff goes a long way. Subscribe to the pod. And let people know about the show here, especially given the fact that we've got basketball ending relatively soon. Who knows? Maybe it goes 7. We'll see. But in the event that it doesn't, we could be talking a lot more baseball in the near future than we have been. All right. So how you feeling this morning? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, had a good weekend. Went down, saw my mom, saw my dad, still at my mom's, probably heading back this afternoon, if not tomorrow morning. But yeah, no, good weekend. How was yours?
Not bad. Not bad. I went and saw a comedy show at Helium in Philly. And that was fun. Got to meet the headliner, a guy I listen and watch all the time. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I saw your picture. I didn't know who it was, though.
Yeah, most people like if you're not into, he's Shane Gillis's co-host on their podcast. You watched the Shane Gillis special, the live in Austin. That was a good one.
Did I?
Yeah, you are. I know for a fact you watched it. We talked about it. But anyway, we got 7 games to get into today. Again, first pitch, 6:40 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll make sure to dive into all of that. We'll start it off with Detroit and Philly. The Tigers plus 200 on the money line, Adam. 8.5 run implied or 8.5 run total in this game. I guess we could just slide right into this one, pull up the top pitchers tool, pull up the top stacks tool, and get to work with this. looking at this, plus 200 to what's the implied total on Detroit, given that they're going up against Aaron Nola, who's been
3.3.
3.3 implied run total. They have Wentz on the mound for them. Let's just start with pitching, because 3.3, I'm seeing 3.4 in some spots, 5.3 for Philly. It's come down a little bit since earlier in the morning, but is there any interest out of the gate in getting to Wentz, or do you want to move straight over to Aaron Nola and talk about this pretty appealing matchup at CBP?
Yeah, not much to say about Wentz. He's pulling 2% ownership, 10% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He is $6,000, but this doesn't strike me as a slate where you're going to need to pay down for him, especially because we do have a guy at 4K that is pitching and getting 31% ownership. So it seems like if you are paying down for value, there's other spots you can go to. You do also have Mike Myers on this slate against the Marlins, a better matchup than Wentz has against Philly. So I don't think we're going to get there. I think Nola is pretty clearly the focal point of the pitchers here.
As far as focal point goes of these pitchers, where does he grade out among all of the pitchers on today's slate?
So he comes in at the top because we don't have a lot of great pitching on this slate. When you look at the top of the top pitchers tool, you have Aaron Nola with a 33% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Blake Snell is second. Braxton Garrett is third. Braxton Garrett's been very good this year. Blake Snell has not. Nola has not. But there's just not much in the way of pitching that's going to look good. So that's going to funnel more ownership to Nola, and it is going to make him just look a little bit more valuable. His salary has increased a bit to $10,200. Overall this year, only striking out about 21.5% of hitters. He's still only walking about 6% of hitters, but 4.24 xFIP, over a home run per, almost 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. So he hasn't been very good, but he's still been, in the context of this slate, one of the best pitchers, even with his underperforming this year. And then you also have to factor in that it's still more likely than not that Aaron Nola does turn things around, at least to some extent, and move back closer to what he's been for his entire career. This isn't some 37-year-old guy where you're just like, yeah, maybe he's at the end of the road. There's no real reason that Aaron Nola should be dropping off of a cliff. And, again, to reiterate, even if we just assume, if we were to just say this is what Aaron Nola is, he's still one of the best pitchers on the slate, and he's still got one of the best matchups going up against a pretty bad Detroit offense that is also missing 2 of its most dangerous hitters in Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter. So one way or the other, Nola is going to look very good here. He just looks even better if you do believe that he's going to eventually start moving back closer to his normal results.
Also, the biggest favorite on the slate, no less.
Right. Yeah, which goes hand in hand with most of the pitching on this slate sucks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What do you make on the other side of this one from a hitting perspective? Just looking at Phillies in the top stack tool, there's a big group of teams that all have like 7 to 9% top stack probability today, 8 of them to be exact. And then you got Texas at 10.5. You got the Houston Astros against Manoah at 12%. How do the Phillies grade out in your mind here? They have top middle stack score in our top stack tool, but they're also the highest owned stack right now of anyone out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot because they're in a good park in Philly. So far this year, Wentz has been very, very good at limiting left-handed power. So that points to Schwarber and Harper. But the thing is, you're talking about just all lefties he has faced. If he was consistently facing Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, I'm sure he would have allowed more power to lefties than he has. So it's not like you can't go to those guys. But then he's also had issues with right-handed power, allowing a 246 expected ISO. You have a negative park shift going into Philly. So that's going to make Castellanos, Turner, Real Muto look good. We have a 2K Drew Ellis projected to be hitting 6th. Just pulled him up. He is probably not great, but he's still 2K. Most of the projection systems on FanGraphs essentially have him ranging from like an 80 to 90 WRC plus. The bat's at 74. As I mentioned before, they're typically going to be the low end of the range of outcomes for guys that haven't really played in the major leagues. ATC projection system has him with an 80 WRC plus. Steamer and Zips are at 91 and 93. So pretty wide ranging projections there, but all projecting to be a below average hitter. Still right-handed in 2K. So the Phillies do look pretty good. Like you said, though, they are getting quite a bit of ownership, projected to be the highest owned stack on the slate. And it's not like they're super cheap. Harper's 5,700, Turner 5,100. Outside of that, they're pretty inexpensive, so that's nice. Schwarber somehow at 4,600. That's not where Kyle Schwarber belongs. Castellanos is 4,500. So you can get to them relatively easily. The ownership would just be the only, I guess, concern I have.
But you're right, though. But when it comes to Wentz, lefties versus righties, same-handed hitters have not. I mean, what is it? 0.072 x ISO against lefties. 246 a 246 ISO, x ISO against righties. Like that is a huge difference there. And a lot of that pop comes from the left side of the plate for Philly. Where's Castellanos' ownership at today?
I don't.
He's got.
I didn't have the individual ownership in front of me.
I can pull it up. It's got to be up there, right? It has.
You would think at that price tag, you would expect it to be.
And he's just having a very strong year. I'll tell you right now.
Not as high as I expected. 12.7%.
Huh. Where's the highest individual ownership coming from in Philly?
Real Muto's at 16, Turner's at 15, Castellanos is at 13, Schwarber's at 12, Harper and Ellis at 10.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I would have thought Castellanos would be up there. But yeah, there are still some good right-handed bats in this lineup that you want to take advantage of. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't think you should just be skipping Schwarber and Harper.
No, of course not. I wasn't suggesting that.
No, I know. I just wanted to
say Wentz has just been, he has been way worse against righties, but it's still two guys with a ton of pop. Plus, if he gets chased from the mound early, which is entirely possible, then, if he only goes 3 or 4 innings, doesn't matter that these guys didn't have the platoon advantage early on.
Right. And also when we talk about what he's been able to do limiting lefties, even if you go back to the start of last season, he's thrown 304 total pitches to left-handed hitters. It's not like you're talking about a huge sample size. You would expect that number to come up at least a little bit. And then, like I said before, if every one of those hitters he faced were the caliber of Schwarber and Harper, he's almost definitely giving up bigger numbers.
Any other bats to touch on here? I think we covered most of it.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, we didn't really talk about Detroit as a stack, but I don't think you really need to. They're coming in at the very bottom of the top stacks tool. 3% chance of being the top stack, 2% ownership. They are second in top value percentage, but this doesn't strike me as a slate where you're going to need to punt bats all that often. It's not like you have pitching that you really want to pay for.
All right, let's talk about KC and Miami. The second game with the 6:40 first pitch today, and then it goes back to pretty much normal times. Braxton Garrett, third highest top 2 probability on our top pitchers tool. As far as ownership goes, you've got Aaron Nola just far and away above everybody else. And then we can talk about Snell, Abbott at 4K. That's going to be an interesting conversation. Oviedo, and then Braxton Garrett at 25% here. Basically, as far as the leverage score goes on him, everything looks pretty much as it should be. Ownership compared to the top 2 probability. But he's got a 24% strikeout rate on the season, 12.5% swinging strike rate. He's got good stuff. You would mention that he is somebody that's pitching well this season. Where does Kansas City? What's their K rate versus lefties? So what's that?
I was going to say, since the start of last year, their active roster is striking out 20.9% against lefties. Okay.
Yeah, this season, 604 plate appearances, 22.4%. That's 13th in the league. So, yeah, I mean, is Garrett someone that you want to be getting to at a high frequency here?
Yeah, I actually am a little surprised he's not pulling more ownership. We have him at 22.5%, 22% chance of being a top pitcher, or a top 2 pitcher rather. But you look at the arms around him. Blake Snell, $1,400 more expensive taking on the Cubs, 26.5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, but getting like more than 1.5 times the ownership of Garrett. Don't really understand that one. Johan Oviedo facing Oakland, obviously a good matchup, but pulling a little bit more ownership than Garrett. He is cheaper, so I get that one a little bit more than Snell, but still, it seems like Garrett's going a little bit under-owned relative to other pitchers around him, and he's been really, really good this year. He's striking out 25% of hitters, only walking 5.5%, 3.24 xFIP, has a solid matchup against Kansas City. Like we said, not a ton of strikeouts, but, league average on their active roster against left-handed pitching since the start of last year. Pretty decent chance that whatever lineup they actually roll out there is a little bit weaker than that. The game's in Miami, 3.6 implied run total. I really like Garrett at 8,300.
All right. So how many of these guys would you, and I know it's kind of a loaded question in a sense, but outside of say Nola, how many of these guys getting more ownership than Garrett would you put behind him? Again, I know it's tough too because Abbott's $4,000
Right.
and you got to play two pitchers anyway.
Right. So like Abbott is kind of his own category. I'm not
Yeah.
counting him since he's 4K. I think I think Oviedo and Snell should be behind Garrett. Like
Yeah.
maybe I don't think it's by like a wide margin. Like maybe my take on this changes once I've built some lineups in the afternoon and we get to the deeper dive later. But just in terms of like thinking about how I view these guys and how I think it should be approached, and even and again, using the top pitchers tool, it pretty much backs this up. I think Garrett should be more popular than Snell, given that he's been a much better pitcher this year. He has a better matchup. He's less expensive. Um, I think he should be more popular than Snell. And then Oviedo is kind of different because he is $1,400 less. He does have the Oakland matchup. He is a better value play. But at the same time, when you have Andrew Abbott as the best value play by a massive margin, how often are you really going to need those savings? And I think that if you're just talking projection and ceiling and all of that, I still think Garrett's ahead of Oviedo.
Any interest on the other side of this one? It's tough because you have Hernandez is the probable opener, and then Mike Myers is your probable long reliever against Miami today.
I have some interest in Myers. I'd have a lot more if Andrew Abbott didn't exist, but Myers did follow Hernandez last time out. Still threw 75 pitches. He's only 6,600. He's got a good matchup against Miami in Miami. This has been one of the weakest offenses against right-handed pitching all season long. They do have a 4.4 implied run total. I don't think Myers is like a great play or safe or anything, but 3% ownership does seem a little bit low. We have him with a 14% chance of being a top two pitcher and a 19% top two value percentage. So I think as the day goes on, either the top two percentages come down or the ownership comes up. Like, I don't think that we end up with an actual gap that wide. But when you look at the value arms on this slate, if we let's call it like the sub 7K pitchers, Oviedo should certainly be more popular than Myers taking on Oakland. Abbott should absolutely be more popular than Myers. Joey Wentz is getting similar ownership. I would definitely rather play Myers than Wentz. Kyle Hendricks getting similar ownership. I would definitely rather play Myers. There's not a ton of sub 7K guys. So I do think that like in lineups where maybe you're not getting to Abbott for one reason or another, whether it's you're stacking Milwaukee or you just aren't playing Abbott, I think Myers is going a little bit under right
now. Okay. Yeah, 6,600. What's he at ownership? 3%? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we have him at 3% ownership with a 14% chance of being a top two pitcher. Those numbers have to balance out one way or the other.
Do you like bats on either side of this one?
Not really. Tough park to hit in. Good pitcher in Garrett. Not the most appealing spot against Hernandez Myers. I would go to the Miami side before the KC side, but they're also, at least the guys that you want, aren't that cheap. Jorge Soler at 5,400, Arise at 48, De La Cruz at 43, then the rest of the lineup drops off. So as a stack, you can make cheap Miami stacks. But like we were saying with Detroit, I don't know how far that value goes when you can just roster a 4K top pitching prospect instead. So yeah, not too interested in either side, but I would go to the Miami side first.
Let's talk about Oakland and Pittsburgh. By the way, you guys hear us talking about the top stacks tool, the top pitchers tool, top hitters tool, all that stuff. MLB lineup generator. For those of you maybe new to the channel, new to the show, first off, welcome. But second off, all of our tools, 50% off for the first week or month, however you want to play it. Whether you're going, hey, I just want baseball, or hey, I want to get into some PGA and some NASCAR and close out the NBA season. You don't even have to know a lot of these sports, which is why we provide these tools. A lot of these sports, there's a lot of people out there that make a lot of money using the tools that you could probably name far more players in the league than they can, but it doesn't make the difference because they're making more money knowing how to utilize the tools. Yeah, all of them, whether it's the MLB lineup generator or anything else, 50% off the first week, first month. MLB lineup generator too, guys, $4.48 for the first week. It's one of those deals worth checking out if you're even on the fence or not even on the fence going, all right, I've heard a lot about this. What's it about? $4.48. If you're playing $1 a day, it's still worthwhile. Even if you're throwing, 20 entries into the into the nickel or whatever it is, you're getting lineups generated for you. What the lineup generator does is it's just sorting out all of the bad lineups already. It's throwing them out and giving you the top projected lineups that we have. You can save as many as you want, discard as many as you want. You're getting the optimal percentage as far as projection goes on every lineup. You're getting the ownership projection, whether it's chalky or contrarian. You can make tweaks to it. You can swap players out, lock players, and you can select your stack type. So when you go in, you'd be like, all right, DraftKings main slate. If you're hitting all stacks, you're just going to get all stacks, right? Or all lineups. Or you could go, all right, I want a 5-3, I want a 5-2-1, I want a 4-4 type stack. It'll spit all of them out for you. You can upload them to CSV if you're on your computer, but it's also optimized for mobile to make your life way easier. You're talking less than $4.50 for the first week. Like I said, I put it as simply as this. There's nothing to lose, especially, maybe you're struggling. You're not building lineups by hand the way you'd like. You're looking for not only a way to win, but maybe a different process, and you can glean something from that and win at the same time. Link in the description for the MLB lineup generator. And if you guys ever have any questions about this stuff, my DMs on Twitter are open at Laffy_D. Happy to answer any questions signing up, but link in the description and in chat as well. Yeah, I know, Jordan. Get that in there for me, please. Thanks. Yeah, I'll throw the link in for if you wanted 50% off all of our tools. Like if you're going, all right, I want the MLB lineup generator, but I also want the top stacks tool, the top pitchers tool. I want ownership. I want player projections in all of the sports. That would be 50% off, whether Stochastic plus Platinum, weekly or monthly, however you want to do it. You just click the link and it'll take you there and you can select your package. Are you finding that for me? You can throw that in chat too. All right. All right. Let's move this one forward here. We got Oakland and Pittsburgh. All right. So JP Sears and then Oviedo. Oviedo is popular today, Adam. Is that a spot we've already discussed it a little bit here, but are you on board with 26% or do you think it should be lower?
Yeah, I think it's fine. He's cheap. He's got as good a matchup as you're going to get. He's not a great pitcher. He's not horrible. 20% K percentage, 11% walk rate, 4.7 xFIP, 4.1 FIP this year. But again, facing Oakland does go pretty far. You also have a good pitcher's park in Pittsburgh. Supposed to be around 80 degrees, so not the low to mid 90s that we were getting earlier. I do think that he might be going a little bit over-owned. Just again, Andrew Abbott just changes this slate. If Andrew Abbott were either not pitching today or just simply priced like he should be, Oviedo's ownership would make a lot more sense because you'd be looking at the pitching and saying, all right, well, if you need to pay down, you have this $6,900 pitcher against Oakland. That looks really good. I realize Oviedo is not great, but Oakland, good park, need cheap pitching. The reason Abbott kind of messes it up is that the need cheap pitching part just doesn't really matter for Oviedo anymore. Like, I don't think you're making a lot of Oviedo plus Abbott lineups. You could, but I just assume you're not going to need to. So I don't really think Oviedo should be getting the same ownership as Abbott. I think Abbott should be more popular given that he's $2,900 less and probably a better pitcher. So that's sort of my issue with Oviedo is like, if you can find the salary, I would rather get up to Braxton Garrett. If you're trying to save salary, you're probably going to make better lineups if you go down to Andrew Abbott. So that's kind of the issue there. But at the same time, I think he should certainly be getting ownership. He should be one of the more popular pitchers on the slate, just given that he's facing Oakland.
Yeah, I'm wondering, though, maybe we do see a decent amount of those lineups with Oviedo and Abbott just because people are going to say, okay, I can pay top dollar for this stack that I normally wouldn't be able to get to, whether it's like Texas that has a top value score, second worst on the entire slate, but also the second highest stack score. The Houston Astros highest top stack probability, only a 4.9% value score. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe there will be a decent amount of people that go. It's clearly a matchup play for Oviedo if you're rostering him. Oakland has a 26% strike, 26.5% K rate against righties. You know what their WRC plus is against righties this year? This is shocking.
Oakland?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess like 74.
Yeah, 78.
Yeah.
And it's not the worst in the league against righties.
That would be Cleveland?
Yep, nailed it. Yeah, really, really bad, though.
Yeah, I completely stand by my take that Josh disagreed with, that the Orioles AAA team would beat Oakland in a best-of-7 series.
You really think so?
Yeah, because most if almost every player on the A's were on the Orioles, they would be at AAA. Like, it's different. So somebody said that it's like the conversation where, like, you say, would Alabama beat the worst NFL team? And it's not close because, it's not close. But baseball is different because you get drafted. Like, it's the only league that has a minor league system like it does. So you get drafted, you're just stuck in this organization. Most of the Orioles AAA players, if they were in other organizations, would be in the majors. And most of Oakland, if they were in other organizations, would be at AAA. Oakland's best pitcher from last year is at AAA for the Orioles. Like, I think they win a best of 7 series.
All right. What would you put the odds at? You said 7-game series?
Yeah. Neutral Park, 7-game series. I don't know, 60-40.
60-40?
55-45, somewhere in there.
All right. But you'd favor
I favor the AAA team, yes.
All right. I want to do something real quick here. I want to pull up the lineup generator and I want to see how much we're getting. Like, let's see what the pitching combos are, Adam, just to see what we're getting earlier in the day to see how much of this we're getting, because I pulled it up now. The first pitching pairing, and of course, like, any of us could go and we're going to get different lineups on the lineup generator. I didn't lock anybody in. I did all stack types and all lineup types on the lineup generator, Jordan. So you can throw that up as well. And then don't lock anybody in. All right. So let's see. First, we got what? Nola Oviedo, Nola Snell. Scroll down in the lineups. Nola Snell. I want to see if there's any Abbott and Oviedo or any Abbott and Abbott, Nola. No. You're not seeing it. Do you think it's something that you'll be getting to? Just
Oviedo.
2 cheap pitchers? Yeah, I'm 2 cheaper pitchers, essentially Abbott, and then one of the non-expensive pitchers with him, like a mid-range guy.
Probably not too much. And the reason is just like, if you pair Oviedo and Abbott on DraftKings, you have $4,887 per position left. And so clearly you can just roster a lot of really good hitters, but most stacks just aren't that sharply priced. And so, like, if you're stacking, it's going to typically create a situation where even if you play the best hitters from whatever stack, a lot of times you're just going to end up with a couple $1,000s left over, and you can just turn Oviedo into one of the better pitchers.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you happen to have a stack, like you used Texas as an example. So, like, let's see what it looks like if we just, like, 5-man stack the top of Texas. So Semien at 6K, Seager at 5,900, Lowe at 4,800, Young at 5,300, and Garcia at 5,500. So, like, this is a team where if you're going Oviedo Abbott, or if you're stacking, if you're going Oviedo Abbott, you're probably pushing towards a team like Texas that is super expensive across the board. So that leaves you like $3,900 per position. So you can make some really good stacks that way, but I think that also sort of illustrates how infrequently that's going to show up unless you're intentionally just leaving money and playing Oviedo over Garrett or Snell, because we just grabbed a ridiculously expensive stack and you can still pay nearly $4,000 per position to round it out. So stacks that are expensive but not as expensive, you're just going to have so much leftover money.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, that's not saying you can't leave money on the table, but at that point you're actively choosing to just play Oviedo instead of Snell or Garrett or whoever.
And I'm just generating lineups now in the lineup generator, and I locked Abbott in. Like, Toronto, here's one. The second one that popped up had Abbott, Oviedo, Toronto, Houston stack. So you've got that. And these guys are all expensive.
Right.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 batters at 5K plus in that lineup. Not surprising. Yeah, it's just going to force a lot of that in there. But to your point earlier, you could still do that with Nola and Abbott. It's not hard to still get a lot of expensive bats in there. Right,
exactly. Like, there are certainly some specific lineups where you just, like, you're going to be using most of your cap and it's going to be Oviedo Abbott. But in most lineups, no matter who you stack, you're going to still have the option to say, like, all right, well, I can still just play at least Braxton Garrett, if not somebody better. And I'm not saying, again, like, the pitching on this slate is suspect. So it's not the craziest idea in the world to just say, all right, I'm leaving 2K on the table and I'm playing Oviedo over Garrett, and hopefully he beats Garrett. Like, perfectly reasonable outcome, but you're going to have that choice to make a lot of time.
Any interest in bats to wrap up this Oakland Pitt game?
Nothing really from the Oakland side. Obviously they are terrible. They are cheap. I don't think you need it that much, but Seth Brown in particular is somebody that I do get to quite a bit. Don't mind getting there. Ruiz gives you some stolen base upside, but probably not going to get there too much. I do have interest really in both sides of Sears and the Pirates. More so the Pirates. They have a 4.9 implied run total. They're coming in middle of the pack in top stack percentage at 7%, 10% projected ownership. Sears has had issues with right-handed power this year, to say the least. 270 expected ISO, 274 actual ISO. So looking at the right-handed bats here for Pittsburgh, you have McCutchen, Reynolds, Joe, Santana, or the corpse of Santana, Ke'Bryan Hayes. Like, you have almost an entirely right-handed lineup against a pitcher that gives up a lot of power to righties. He does also have a 25% K percentage against righties, and he is projected for 1%, 2% ownership. So I don't think Sears is like a great play. But if you're playing 150 lineups in large field tournaments, I don't think it's a bad spot to just be getting a little bit more of him and hoping he gets the strikeouts. But if I could only pick one side there, certainly go to the Pittsburgh side.
How is Julio Turin $8,700?
I mean, he's been really good in 2 starts. I guess that matters.
I mean, I
have no idea.
He didn't have a single strikeout last game. I mean, he's been good at limiting production.
Right. He's been good at making the lineups that I stack against him not score things.
That's fair. I just don't see this being a guy that's going to get a lot of strikeout production anymore. I really don't.
The guy hasn't pitched in the major leagues in like 3 years and wasn't good then, and hasn't done nothing that he's doing right now suggests he's actually going to be good. He struck out 11% of hitters through his first 2 starts, 12%. When he
5% swinging strike rate.
Yeah. When he first, a couple starts ago, when he first came back, obviously I was recommending stacking against him, and I was stacking against him. But I said that I was always a little bit nervous with somebody like this because there's no real reason why he should be back in the major leagues. So it makes me concerned that like maybe he's going to come out there and just have like this nasty new pitch that's getting a bunch of swings and misses and stuff. Even though he has done a good job limiting runs, it's safe to say that I don't think he has any like improved stuff that's getting a bunch of strikeouts anytime soon.
Neither do I. I think it's actually probably working backward.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that respect. We'll get to that game in a second, but let's talk about Houston and Toronto here. Houston on the road, plus 100 on the money line, 10-run total here. They're Brandon Bielak and Alek Manoah. Any interest? Let's start it off here, and then we can get into some pitching or some hitting, because we're definitely going to have to talk about that. Is there any interest in pitching on either side of this game? Like, are you getting this from Manoah?
Not really. Manoah's pulling 11% ownership. Very tough matchup against Houston. If you're rostering Manoah here, it's for 2 reasons. 1, pitching on this slate isn't great. And 2, Alek Manoah was good as recently as a year ago. He's been absolute garbage this year. He has a really, really tough matchup with Houston. It's tough for me to want to get there. Again, I understand like the 10% ownership. I don't think that's crazy. But I guess that's sort of where I compare, like, is Alek Manoah at 7,400 against Houston actually that much better than JP Sears at 7,600 against Pittsburgh? I would lean Manoah, but I don't think he's a 5-1 favorite, which is how the ownership's playing out. So I think he's a very low probability play. He's got a tough matchup. He's only struck out 17.5% of hitters this year. He's walking 15% of hitters. He has a nearly 6 xFIP. His FIP is over 6. He's allowed 1.6 home runs per 9. I mean, there's nothing about this that makes me think this is where Alek Manoah gets it all back together.
Yeah. I mean, not at all. And now you're talking about a situation where Houston has the highest top stack probability on the slate. Right now, they're coming in at, let's see, what's the top stack? 11.9%. It's funny too, because they're not that popular, Adam. And I know that this isn't a cheap lineup, but there are ways to get expensive bats today. We have them with with a pretty solid leverage score today. What do we do with Houston bats against the guy that you kind of just railed against for 2 minutes there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they look good. If you're trying to find a positive for Manoah or a potential reason why maybe the Astros failed here, other than it's really hard to hit, Manoah has still been much better against righties this year than lefties. It's just that much better is relative. He's still allowing a 150 expected ISO and 343 expected WOBA to righties. He's still only striking out 20% of lefties or righties. You compare it to lefties, though, 16% K percentage, 243 expected ISO, 412 expected WOBA. So he's always had splits. It's just that it used to be he was lights out against righties and he was fine against lefties. Now he's okay against righties and absolute dog shit against lefties. So you do probably have a predominantly right-handed lineup for Houston. Those are good righties, though. Pena, Bregman in particular, Tucker and Alvarez in two of, I think, the best spots on the slate. Mauricio Dubon, if he's in the lineup, it's cheap. So that would be the one kind of negative is like, for one, the bottom of the order for Houston is relatively weak. McCormick, Myers, Maldonado, and they're all right-handed. And then the lineup as a whole probably only has two left-handed hitters. So that aspect of it is more favorable for Manoah, but it's not like he's been great against righties. And some of these righties are really good. Plus, Alvarez and Tucker are absolutely brutal matchups for him.
What about the other side of this one? If we're talking about Toronto bats here going up against Bielak, is this? I mean, he is allowing a good amount of power. One and 3/4 home runs per 9 this season, striking batters out at around league average 21%, not missing a ton of bats either.
Was that for Bielak?
Toronto bat? Yeah, I'm saying Toronto bats here.
Yeah. I like the Toronto side as well. I always like them at home. Bielak so far this year, 257 expected ISO to righties, 364 expected WOBA. He has struck them out 27% of the time, which obviously is good. But it kind of goes back to like what we were saying about the Phillies lefties against Wentz. That's great and all that he's struck righties out 27% of the time. But you're talking about every righty that he's faced. If he were just repeatedly facing Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Chapman, Merrifield, Kirk over and over and over again all season long, his strikeout percentage would probably not be 27%. And the 257 expected ISO, 364 expected WOBA would probably be even higher than it already is. So the one saving grace for him is that he does have good strikeout stuff against same-handed hitters, but he's given up a lot of power. You're facing a ton of power. I really like getting to both offenses in this game.
All right. Two of your top offenses on the – I mean, they should be.
Yeah, absolutely should be. Houston first in top stack percentage. Toronto third. Neither team really going over-owned either. I definitely like getting to both sides.
All right, let's talk about Milwaukee and the Cincinnati Reds. We already kind of touched on Julio Teheran for a second there. I get that he's done a solid job of limiting runs. I'm just not convinced at all that's maybe it continues. Maybe he's just become like a straight contact guy and he's pitching the contact, but I can't. So 2 starts, 126 WOBA to righties, a 344 to lefties, but there's just I can't look at this and go, yeah, I'm paying 8,700 for Teheran. Now, if you wanted to make the argument that we shouldn't be going heavy on Cincinnati bats, totally get that. I do. But I'm not at all surprised that Julio Teheran has the lowest ownership on the slate among any pitcher on DraftKings. 8,700 is a lot for a guy that is not missing any bats. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think the conversation here isn't even like, do you roster Teheran? Because the answer there is just very obviously no. Yeah. Not that he can't have a good game. It's still just so hard to hit. But he's such a low probability play at 8,700 in Cincinnati against a team with a 5-run implied total. If he has a big game, whatever, I'm fine not having him. And also it probably won't matter because unless he goes out there and scores 40 fantasy points, the 1% of people that played him, if he scores 22, it's not like that's a huge, leg up or anything. You're probably talking about, a couple extra points over whoever people do play. So I think as a pitching option, he's pretty much just non-existent. The hitters, though, I'm still happy to get there. Yeah, he's been fine through his first 2 starts, but 197 expected ISO through those first 2 starts to lefties, only 144 to righties, 323 expected WOBA to lefties. But, it's still, when you have somebody that just cannot miss bats like this, has been out of baseball for several years, it's just so unlikely that he ends up being good. If you go back to the 2019 season, which again, that's kind of what you have to do to get any sort of reasonable sample size for him, 237 expected ISO to lefties, 372 to righties, 174 expected ISO to righties, 372 expected WOBA to lefties, 174 expected ISO to righties, 330 expected WOBA. Good park. Not the best lineup, but they do have young talent here. You have McLean who's up, Steer's got power, Fraley's solid, India's not bad. Stevenson gives you power at the catcher position. Nick Senzel is a former top prospect who just dealt with a bunch of injuries, but still has talent. So I don't mind getting to the Cincinnati team. They are sixth in top stack percentage behind Houston, Texas, Toronto, Philly, Milwaukee, but still 8% chance of being top stack, 9% ownership. I think they look good, and I'm still not buying into just not playing hitters against Tehran.
Yeah, neither am I at all. There's no reason we should be too super worried about that. Good park, 9.5 total. What's Cincinnati's implied total here?
5.
Did you mention that? Okay. Yeah. 5.
Yeah.
Not bad. On the other side of this one, it's Tehran and then Abbott. We've already talked at length about this. I don't know how we could go into a little bit of strategy conversation here. Just you got a young prospect at minimum salary making his debut. There's clearly a lot to like here. And for that reason, he's going to be very popular, right? But is there anything that we should be looking at differently here? Or is it just, hey, go ahead and play out? Because look, as long, not to speak in circles, but we've seen a lot of good prospects, come out and get blown up in their first start. It's not like this isn't possible here. But yeah, Milwaukee has the highest K rate in the league versus lefties, 29.3%. That's 2% higher than the next worst team, which is the Minnesota Twins.
Right. This is just a spot where it's a completely broken price. Andrew Abbott is not just some random AAA call-up. Top 100 prospect. He's got good strikeout stuff. 7 starts at AAA this year, 34.8% strikeout percentage. 20 starts at AA last year, struck out 30.8%. Looking at the projection systems on FanGraphs, the BAT projects 23.2%. ATC projects 25%. They both have projected FIPS between 4.45 and 4.6. So basically, you're expecting him at this point in his career to not be great at preventing runs, but to still have good strikeout stuff. And like you said, you're facing a Milwaukee team that strikes out a lot. So at this price tag, there's just so much upside for him. He's going to, median projection is going to look great from a value standpoint. Upside is good. Like, he's got the strikeout stuff. So outside of most, he can reasonably score as many fantasy points as pretty much any pitcher on this slate. If you want to say, Nola's true ceiling is higher because the Phillies would, if they're both pitching really well, Nola's still going to have a longer leash. I think that's perfectly fair. But realistically, like, Abbott can just go out there and score 20 plus fantasy points, just like everybody else can. So the price tag is completely wrong. I expect to get to him a lot. I also expect to get to the Milwaukee side a lot, though, because 1, they're cheap. 2, it's a good park. It's good hitting weather today. And this guy is making his major league debut. We know that comes with more volatility, but also he doesn't project to be an ace right now. He projects to have good strikeout stuff and probably struggle with it. So both sides look good. Like, if Abbott were 7,500 or something like that, whatever his correct price should be, you would be talking about him like, okay, he's a decent pitching play, 10, 15% owned. Milwaukee's a decent stack, middle of the road. The reason it's just kind of weird now is that at 4K, Abbott is such a good pitching play that I expect most of my lineups to probably either have Abbott or the Milwaukee stack.
Okay.
It's so hard to think. It's so hard to think about what the middle ground looks like here, especially because pitching on this slate is weak. It would be different if this were like the slate from the other day where you had, Kershaw, Castillo, like 6 other aces at the top. And it's like, all right, if Andrew Abbott goes out there and scores 12 or 13 DraftKings points, I'm probably in trouble because there's so many aces. A couple of them are going to go score 26, 27. On this slate, if Abbott scores 12 DraftKings points, there's a decent chance he's still one of the better pitching options. And obviously, he has the potential to do better. If Abbott scores less than like 12 points, with how cheap Milwaukee is, they probably have several guys putting up big games. So it's really difficult with the pricing to create many plausible situations where the middle ground hits and you don't want Milwaukee bats or the 4K pitcher.
Let me pull the top stack tool up real quick. Let me see something. Milwaukee. Wow. Milwaukee has the highest stack score on the slate.
Yeah, they're really cheap and they're still likely to succeed. They're not the most likely team. They're 9%, but Philly's 9%, Blue Jays are 9.5%. The only 2 teams 10% or more are Houston and Texas at 11 and 10. So they're pretty much as likely as anybody to be the top scoring team. And then they're really, really cheap. So like, I fully expect to get to both sides very heavily. I don't think the ownership on either side is high. 7% ownership coming into Milwaukee, 32 to Abbott. everything considered, I think Abbott is the best pitching play on the slate if you're not playing Milwaukee. And if you're not playing Abbott, I really want Milwaukee.
It's a really good point, though, too. And plus, Abbott, you mentioned probably not likely to go out there and just limit a ton of runs. But even in AAA this year in 7 starts, 1.88 home runs per 9, he's allowed 8 home runs in 7 starts. Things could get squirrely for him real quick here.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to remember. I don't remember what league their AAA team plays in.
Yeah.
Because the reason I'm saying is if they're in whatever the PCL is, then the home runs don't really mean
Would it be the PCL, though?
That's what I don't remember. No, they're international league, so I don't know anything about the specific park they play in, but those numbers should be more true than if they were PCL.
Anything else from this game?
And yeah, I mean 4.59 FIP at AAA, 3.58 xFIP. So maybe probably did run bad on home runs. 22.9% home run per fly ball percentage.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, like that we don't have data on how hard he's getting hit AAA necessarily.
Right. All right. 5 down, 2 to go. Before we do, though, you guys know we're an authorized partner of SoRare here. You should know that. Digital trading cards, NFT-based, free-to-play MLB games. Yeah. And all of these digital collectible cards backed by NFTs, non-fungible tokens, they're all minted on the blockchain. All you do, if you haven't checked it out yet, and you can play this for free, create your ultimate MLB fantasy team, play in free competitions to win epic awards. Now, you can also purchase cards on the secondary market as well. But just like an MLB manager, you're doing that. You're building lineups. It's fantasy except better in many cases. Click the link in the description. Start playing. Now, if you're wondering what it is, it's very simply a collection of digital trading cards, NFT-based, free-to-play baseball game. Again, free-to-play. You can do that. You can play. You can add cards to your arsenal, right, to your collection, and move up the ranks, get more, and then sell them on the secondary market. All of that stuff without paying a single cent. Or you can buy cards on the secondary market and start, making more of a collection, selling them, profiting from that, all in NFT form. They're officially licensed digital NFT cards featuring all your favorite players, MLB, NBA, etc. Build the cards in your collection, throw them into contests against your peers, and score points based on real-life performance of the players in your lineup. Digital cards earn XP, so experience points when you enter a competition with them, making them more powerful. Compete for rewards with other fans around the world. You can buy, sell, trade, and collect your favorite cards with complete freedom. Check it out. Link in the description and in chat. SoRare, sponsor of the MLB Strategy Show. All right, talk to me about this next game here. We got 2 to go. Adam Wainwright, Martin Perez, St. Louis and Texas. Adam Wainwright's strikeout stuff, I know he had like 6 strikeouts last game, but his swing and miss stuff is essentially just evaporated at this point.
Yeah, this is a really, really, really tough spot for him. Texas is an excellent offensive team. Wainwright so far this year, limited sample, obviously, because it's this year, but also he got a late start to the season. But 232 expected ISO with just a 13% K percentage and a 432 expected WOBA to lefties. Righties only striking out 13% of the time with a 190 expected ISO, 337 expected WOBA, 5.1 implied run total here for Texas. There's nothing not to like other than the price tags, and the price tags don't really matter because probably if I'm playing Texas, I'm playing Andrew Abbott. So I have all the money, in the world. So Texas is going to look really good. Absolutely like getting to them. So much power on this team. And the prices will keep their ownership at least somewhat in check. 10% ownership, 10% chance to be in the top stack. Looking at their ownership individually, you don't have anything too crazy. Seager leads the way at 13.5%. Semion's coming in at 12, low at 10. Everybody else sub 10. So there's a lot of ways you can mix and match this team to save ownership if you wanted to, but it's not really problematic anyway. Really, really like Texas.
All right, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, Texas in a very good spot. They're expensive, but does it really even
I don't
matter?
think it matters.
I don't think it matters either. Yeah, that's what.
So here,
I don't think it matters at all. So,
all right, so let's say you go Aaron Nola plus Braxton Garrett. You have 39-37 per position. So if you wanted to go with like those guys and stack Texas, you probably have to make some concessions and be mixing in, Robbie Grossman,
Right.
Travis Jankowski, Lodi Tavares. You can still do it. It's just not going to be like the peak of Texas's lineup. But even if you were to go to like Nola and, or not Nola, Garrett and like Oviedo, you have 43.50 per position. You can make pretty solid Texas stacks however you want. If you are willing to go down to, Abbott, which you should be, you can do whatever you want. If you go Aaron Nola plus Andrew Abbott, you have 44.75 per position. Like, that's just allowing you still to pretty much do anything you want to. You have, if you stack Texas 1 through 5 with Nola plus Abbott, you have 27.66 for catcher and 2 outfield spots. Not ideal, but doable. And if you just turn Nola into any other pitcher, you're getting more money, obviously.
Yeah, and then one cheap hitter too. It just opens everything up as well.
Right. Like, there's going to be a 2K catcher somewhere, or 2,200 catcher somewhere.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lineup generator now, and I'm just seeing a bunch of these lineups go like Nola, Abbott plus expensive stack plus 1 or 2 cheap bats, and it all fits perfectly fine.
Right. And yeah, and there's still flexibility there, because again, it's not like you have to go 1 through 5 on Texas. Let's say you turn 6K Marcus Semien into $4,800 Jonah Heim and cover, a weak catcher position. You have 31.66 for second base and 2 outfield spots. Like, there's so many ways you can go. You can still use the bottom of the Texas order with Nola, Abbott, and then be getting better one-offs. Like, you just still have a lot of flexibility.
Joe Miner said, just signed up for the MLB lineup generator, had to join with the fellow Pennsylvanian hosting. Hey, good stuff, man. Yeah, you're going to like it for sure. And for those of you guys, I mentioned we'd get that link in for 50% off anything, whether, lineup generator is already in there, but Stochastic plus Platinum, every tool for every sport, or one sport for the week or month, however you want to play it. MLB lineup generator included in that too. If you were to do Stochastic plus Platinum, we got that link in there. So if you see the description, 50% off any Stochastic premium sub, that's where you're looking, for those of you that were waiting on that. All right. The whole Wainwright thing is interesting to me, because he's done a decent job at limiting runs sometimes, but when he's putting everything in play. What about St. Louis against the Southpaw Perez?
Yeah, and the thing with Wainwright too, kind of goes back to what I was saying about Nola earlier. Wainwright's at an age where you expect this dude to fall off the cliff soon.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The guy has legitimately been pitching since I was in either middle school or high, or
2005. That was the year I graduated high school.
I was a freshman, so he's been pitching since I was a freshman.
Yeah.
Like, he should fall off soon. So, like, you should not to say he's going to be this bad the rest of the year, but you should expect him to just be very bad at some point soon, as opposed to Nola, who would be weird. As far as
9% strikeout rate.
What'd you say?
I said 12.9% strikeout rate, 5.9% swinging strike rate. He's just missing 0 bats whatsoever.
Right. On the other side for St. Louis, more of a middle of the pack stack. Martin Perez isn't a pitcher that I'm necessarily scared to take hitters against, but he does typically do a decent job of limiting power. He's had a little bit more issues this year, allowing 192 expected ISO to righties. Go back to last year, though, it's only 129. That's always, been his thing throughout his career. So there is upside in the Cardinals' bats, just because they do have plenty of right-handed power. Goldschmidt, Contreras, Arenado specifically, but much less exciting spot. They also are getting 6% ownership, so like 2/3 the ownership of most of the teams that we really like getting to. But they're going a little bit under owned, 8% chance to be in the top stack, 6% ownership. But it's much more difficult to get excited about them than it is teams like Cincy, Milwaukee, Toronto, Texas, Houston.
Ready to wrap this one up with the Cubs and Padres?
Yep.
Let's do it. Oh, and if you guys aren't rocking the Stochastic avatar yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? You go to stochastic.com/avatar. Jordan and I are going to be recording this week's Hall of Fame. You'll see it between the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. I just wanted to shout out Brandon Wagner here. Finally shipped one, nearly 3 years to close a tourney out solo. Thanks to all your help over the years. Rocking the Awesemo avatar, but we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you. $10,000 in the 70K battery. He's got the avatar. He's got to make the switch, but he does have the Awesemo one. So I'm okay with that. Download the avatar at stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at stochastic HOF. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Get a free month of Stochastic plus Platinum. So you don't got to do any of the half off or whatever. If you're getting the free month, it's a pretty good one. Just have to have the avatar. You can't come complaining like, nah, I have it. You don't. If you don't have it, you don't have it. It's very simple. Use it wherever you play. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. $120 value, Stochastic Plus Platinum. All of our tools and the premium Discord, and you get inducted into the Hall of Fame by me right here, which is just a true honor in and of itself. So make sure you're rocking that avatar if you haven't been already. Yeah. All right. Chicago Cubs plus 145 on the money line against San Diego Padres. 8.5 run total in this one. It's our last of 7. Adam, Kyle Hendricks, Blake Snell. I actually want to start with Snell here on the other side because he is right now very popular. 37.8% ownership, $9,700 against the Cubs today, who have had some strikeout issues at times against left-handed pitching. How much Snell do you want to get to at this price and at this ownership?
This is a really, really, really tough spot to like talk about and try and like articulate what I'm thinking, because on the one hand, I totally get why Blake Snell is one of the most popular pitchers on this slate. He hasn't been very good this year, but most of these pitchers haven't been very good this year. And most of these pitchers don't have any sort of a track record of being good, which Blake Snell does. So it's kind of similar to Aaron Nola in that regard. I don't get why he's pulling 38% ownership at $9,700. Now, I understand that if you pair him with Andrew Abbott, it doesn't really matter if he's $9,700 or $8,700 or $7,700. You're still doing whatever the hell you want with bats, basically. So in some ways, that's going to inflate his ownership just because he does project for more fantasy points. So I get that. But it's not a great matchup. It's just kind of an average matchup. He's struck out 24.5% of hitters this year. So that's a solid strikeout rate. It's similar to Braxton Garrett. But you have to keep in mind that he's being projected as if he's a much better pitcher than that. Because in the past, he's had the same issues that he does this year. Walks, working behind the counts, giving up power. He's always had those issues, but he made up for it with, a 31, 32, 33% strikeout percentage. This year, he's doing all of the same things poorly that he always does, but he's also not getting as many strikeouts, only striking out 24.5%. So it does make him that much riskier. So I think he's still one of the better pitchers on the slate, which speaks heavily to the slate. But I've said it before, I don't really get why he's getting so much more ownership than Garrett. That's the one that really stands out. I don't think he should be more popular than Abbott, like really, given the pricing. So if the ownership stays where it is, I would expect that I'm getting more Nola at the expense of Snell, more Abbott, more Barrett, or Garrett. Put those two together. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I get it. I don't want to talk anybody off Snell because I don't think he's like a bad play. I think he's one of the more talented pitchers on the slate and perfectly fine. The ownership is just concerning to me. Like, there's several guys that I think if Snell were going to be 38%, there's several guys that I think should just be more than that. Like, that should be more popular than Snell.
With that in mind, do you have any interest in Cubs bats?
That's the hard part, is I don't really have a ton of interest there. So much of what Snell struggles with is still just not great for fantasy. Like, I don't want to be rostering a bunch of Cubs as they walk around the bases. He has given up more power this year. 190 expected ISO to righties, 270 to lefties is interesting. So I don't hate the idea of getting some Cubs. Horner, Swanson, Happ, Suzuki, Wisdom. There is plenty of power there, but it's more so a spot where I kind of just expect to be hoping for a middle ground, which I think is a lot more reasonable in a spot like this than we were talking about with Abbott and the Brewers, because pricing here is different. Yes, the Cubs are pretty cheap, at least towards the bottom of the order, but at 9,700, Snell can go out there, give up, a few earned runs, go 5 innings, score 13 DraftKings points. And you didn't really want him, but you didn't really want the Cubs either. I think it's easier to just kind of find that middle here.
What about the San Diego Padres against Hendricks? I know he's only made 2 starts, hasn't allowed a home run yet. He's not someone that's going to get a tons of swing and misses, but he also, it's funny to see the last couple of years, he did start allowing power because he had always been someone that didn't allow much power. I'm not necessarily sure what to expect out of Hendricks today. Is this a spot where you'd go to San Diego bats and fade Hendricks? What are we seeing here? Yeah,
I have some interest in the Padres. Hendricks, I still don't think he's going to be terrible, but we did, like you said, over the last couple of seasons, we did see a pretty big drop off where Kyle Hendricks went from being very good to just sort of average to even slightly below average.
His ground ball rate fell a ton over those years too, which isn't surprising.
And so the thing, pitchers like Hendricks, I do expect typically when they drop off, it's pretty drastic because he's never had a big margin for error throughout his career. He doesn't have very good stuff. He has a good changeup, but he doesn't have, elite stuff where he can be missing his spots, getting behind in counts, and then he's just going to blow you away with a good fastball, or he's going to get you to chase sliders because he has a nasty slider. Like, none of that really exists. And so pitchers like that are walking a really fine line, as they do just start to sort of lose some of what they had, it's just going to make them easier to hit. I think that's what we saw the last couple of years. I expect that to be the case for him going forward, where, yes, maybe he's not horrible, but he's not great. Kind of like, not to entirely compare him to Zach Greinke, but sort of the same like career path that you had with Zach Greinke, where Greinke can still hold his own because he's smart, he knows how to pitch, he can still upset your timing, but he's nowhere near the pitcher he used to be. I think you kind of see that career progression for Hendricks as well. So I view him now basically as somebody that's not going to miss a lot of bats. More often than not, he's going to just be fine. He's going to give up 3-4 runs, nothing too exciting. But in those starts where he doesn't have his best stuff, he's going to get hit hard because there's just nothing else. Like, he doesn't have much of a margin for error. So that does make me interested in the Padres. It's been left-handed power that's mostly gotten him over the last couple of seasons. Since 2021, 371 expected WOBA and a 219 expected ISO to lefties. Righties only at 316 and 148. So individually, I think you're looking first to Soto and Cronenworth here, but clearly you can still get to Bogarts, Tatis, Machado, Sanchez is a high upside catcher option. There's just so many good bats in this lineup that I am interested in the Padres. They're coming in right now, 7% chance of being the top stack, 8% projected ownership. So nothing really standing out there.
All right. Red Skittles. Damn, Laffy's old as fuck. I'm not that old, man. I'm 36. Come on. Feel great. Except yesterday, man. I was hurting yesterday, Adam.
What'd you do Saturday?
I was hurting. I told you I went to that comedy show.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But I went with a buddy of mine who, like, I've been really good lately, but I went with a buddy who, I don't know if you have any of them, but there's always that one guy that's just
Did you say you don't know if I have any friends?
No, like this, I'm saying.
Okay.
That's in question as well. But where he's like, look, if we're going out, we're doing it. And I'm like, look, dude, I can still have a great time. We don't need to be down 7 drinks by 5 p.m.
Right.
And his answer to that is usually, yes, we do. So It was fun, but yesterday was tough, man. Like, yeah, it was tough. Wife wasn't particularly pleased with me trying to sleep on the couch at 3:00 with my daughter running around.
Yeah, that's always the response I get. Like, I'll try and get my friends to come to Baltimore, and they're always just like, no, because if I come to Baltimore, that means we're going to be out all night. I'm going to end up trying to sleep the whole next day, and my wife is going to kill me.
Exactly. That's why I don't do it anymore. But she kind of knew. She's like, oh, you're going out with Pat, huh?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other problem. My friends' wives know. So it's also like they get a different response from their wife if they're like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with Adam in Baltimore, than if they're like, hey, I'm going to go do something with like another married, responsible friend somewhere.
1-2 said, damn, Lobby's 36. Eric said he was 35. For some reason, Eric just seems way. Yeah, I'm a heavy adrenochrome user. You know what that is?
Is that no? I mean, I kind of know, but like I don't know the specifics.
There's this one guy he's like a tech CEO. It's a big thing now. He's spending $2 million a year. Oh yeah, we got to go. My fault. To stay young, and it's by taking his son's blood.
Gotcha. I said it would have something to do with kids,
but adrenochrome, that's a story for another day. Anyway, appreciate you guys being with us as always. Links to everything in the description. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Laffy _D, and we'll see you back here for the next one. Good luck today, guys.